The illusion of weakness. Commander Grath of the Vex Imperium stood on the command deck of his flagship, the inevitable Conquest, his 4 eyes narrowed as they studied the holographic projection of the small blue planet, Earth, the 3rd planet of an unremarkable star system at the edge of the Orion Arm, a world of water and green that housed a species barely 2 centuries into their space age. Tactical assessment, Grath demanded, his voice a rumble that vibrated through the metallic deck plates. Officer Vextrell approached, her exoskeleton clicking softly as she manipulated the hologram, expanding the view to show orbital infrastructure and defense systems. Primitive, Commander. Their orbital stations are unshielded. Weapons systems, primarily chemical-based projectiles and rudimentary nuclear warheads. Their interplanetary capability extends only to their neighboring planets. No faster-than-light technology detected. Grath's mouth flaps twisted in what passed for a smile among the Vex. The intelligence reports suggested they might be more resourceful. Intelligence reports are often overcautious, Commander, Vextrell replied. We have conquered 17 worlds with similar or greater technological advancement. The humans will be no different. Grath nodded, his dorsal spines flexing with anticipation. The Vex Imperium had been expanding for centuries, absorbing or eliminating species that refused to submit to their rule. Humanity would be offered the same choice as all the others: serve or perish. Initiate first contact protocols, Grath ordered. Let us see if they are wise enough to surrender. The communication array hummed to life, broadcasting on all Earth frequencies. The message was simple, translated into the primary Earth languages. People of Earth, you are now within territory claimed by the Vex Imperium. Your technological assessment classifies you as a Grade 3 civilization. You have 2 options: submit to Imperium rule and integration, or face immediate cleansing. You have 1 Earth rotation to decide. The bridge fell silent as they waited. Such ultimatums usually resulted in panic, frantic diplomatic overtures, or foolish displays of defiance. The humans, however, were surprisingly organized in their response. A single transmission came through, originating from what appeared to be a unified Earth government frequency. A human female with dark skin and silver-streaked hair appeared on screen, wearing a simple blue uniform with minimal insignia. This is Director Amara Chen of the Earth Unified Council. We have received your message and understand its implications. We request a 6-hour extension to consult with our planetary leadership. Grath clicked his mandibles in amusement. Granted, it will change nothing. 6 hours later, precisely on schedule, the humans responded. The sane woman appeared, her expression calm. Vex Command, we have considered your ultimatum. Earth sends its answer. You have sealed your fate. The transmission ended abruptly. Silence fell across the command deck before Officer Vextrell broke into the chittering laugh common to her species. They reject our terms with a threat. Fascinating primitives. But Commander Grath felt an unexpected chill along his spine segments. Something in the human's eyes, it seemed, prepared, almost expectant. Scan their planet again, he ordered. Full spectrum. The sensors swept Earth once more, revealing the same unimpressive defenses and infrastructure. Military bases with short-range missiles, a handful of orbital platforms with minimal defensive capabilities, a few dozen satellites with primitive nuclear weapons, a deterrent system they called mutually assured destruction. Nothing has changed, Commander, reported the tactical officer. Their fate appears to be extinction. Grath stared at the hologram, his unease growing despite the evidence before him. Launch the first wave. Standard cleansing protocol. Target their major population centers and military installations. The Vex fleet moved into position, deploying 500 attack vessels in formation around the planet. The first wave of quantum-tipped missiles launched, streaking toward Earth in perfect synchronization. But they never reached their targets. The missiles suddenly veered off course, as if caught in invisible nets. Some detonated harmlessly in the upper atmosphere. Others reversed direction completely. Commander, Vextrell shouted, her usual composure shattered. The missiles. They are returning to our vessels. Before Graf could order evasive maneuvers, 3 support ships erupted in blinding explosions as their own weapons tore through their hulls. Impossible, Graf whispered. They're tech level. The holographic display flickered, and Director Chen appeared again. But now she wore a different uniform, military, adorned with the insignia of high rank. Commander Graf of the Vex Imperium, she said, addressing him by name though he had never provided it. I am Admiral Amara Chen of the Earth Defense Force. What you're experiencing is our quantum deflection shield, technology we've kept hidden for decades. The technological assessment you based your invasion on was carefully curated. Graf's mandibles clicked in shock. You knew we were coming. Chen's expression hardened. We've known about the Vex Imperium for 50 years. We've studied your conquest patterns, your tactical approaches, your technological weaknesses. The 17 worlds you destroyed were populated by species who faced you honestly. Humanity chose a different path. The holographic display split to show Earth's moon sliding open along an invisible seam, revealing a massive installation that had been hidden beneath its surface. Similar structures emerged from what had appeared to be asteroid fields near Mars and Venus. While you watched our commercial satellites and public defense systems, Chen continued, we built our real defenses in secret. We developed quantum technology, gravity manipulation, and energy weapons far beyond what we allowed you to see. Graf clutched the command rail as his ship shuddered. New alerts screamed across the tactical display. Swarms of small, previously undetected vessels were emerging from stealth fields around Earth and its neighboring planets. Evasive maneuvers, Graf ordered. All ships, defensive formation. But it was too late. The human vessels moved with impossible speed, their weapons slicing through Vex shields like they didn't exist. The second wave of Vex attack ships never even managed to launch their missiles before they were reduced to drifting debris. We could have revealed ourselves, Chen said, her voice cold with controlled fury. We could have shown you our true capabilities and perhaps avoided this conflict. But then you would have simply gathered a larger force or developed countermeasures. Instead, we let you believe we were easy prey. Graf watched in horror as his fleet, the pride of the Vex Imperium's 7th expansion force, was systematically dismantled by technology that shouldn't exist on a world like Earth. Your ultimatum was your undoing, Commander Graf, Chen continued. You gave us the justification we needed under galactic law to respond with full force. Your attack constitutes an act of war against a sovereign world. The bridge rocked violently as something struck the inevitable conquest. Gravity failed momentarily before the backup systems engage. Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, reported a panicked officer. Shield generators offline. Chen's expression showed no satisfaction, only grim resolve. Your remaining vessels are being disabled, not destroyed. Your crews will be taken into custody. They will be treated according to interstellar conventions, conventions your Imperium signed but never honored. How? Graf demanded, abandoning dignity in his desperation to understand. How did you hide this level of advancement? Humanity learned long ago that appearing weak when you are strong is the greatest advantage in warfare, Chen replied. While your spies observed our public technology, our real advancements were developed in shielded facilities. We maintained the facade of a developing civilization while preparing for this day. The ship lurched again, and emergency lighting bathed the command deck in crimson. The hologram flickered as power fluctuated. One final message, Commander, Chen said, her image beginning to break up. Tell your Imperium that Earth is not alone. We have formed alliances with survivors from worlds you thought cleansed. Together, we will dismantle your empire and free those you've subjugated. As the transmission faded, Chen's final words echoed on the command deck. You have sealed your fate. Goodbye. The last thing Commander Graf saw before his flagship's power failed completely was the Earth, small, blue, and terrifyingly, impossibly dangerous. The wrath of the prepared. "Restore power," Grath roared, his voice barely audible over the blaring alarms. Emergency lighting cast the command deck in a blood-red glow as crew members scrambled to contain the damage. "Main reactors offline," Commander, Officer Vex Trull reported, her normally pristine exoskeleton scorched from an electrical fire. "Auxiliary power at 17% and falling. Life support on minimal settings." Grath moved to the tactical station, shoving aside a junior officer. The holographic display flickered weakly, showing the remains of his once proud fleet. Of the 500 attack vessels that had entered Earth orbit, fewer than 70 remained operational. The rest drifted lifelessly, or had already been captured by the humans' vessels. "Status of the communication array," he demanded. "Functional on emergency power, but quantum encryption is offline. Any transmission to the Imperium would be in the clear." Grath hesitated. Sending an unencrypted distress call would reveal their failure to any listening ears across the sector. But the alternative was worse. If the flagship fell silent, the Imperium would simply send another fleet into the same trap. "Open a channel to all remaining Vex vessels," he ordered. "Initiate contingency protocol shattered shield." Vex Trull's headplates clicked in shock. "Commander, that's a full retreat order." "I'm aware of what it is," Grath snarled. "Do it now." As the order transmitted, the few functioning Vex ships began emergency jump preparations. It would scatter them across different vectors, making it harder for the humans to capture the entire force. "What about us, Commander?" Vex Trull asked quietly. Before Grath could answer, the ship's remaining power failed completely. The command deck plunged into darkness. Moments later, emergency systems provided minimal lighting, but it was clear the inevitable conquest was dead in space. A new alert sounded, the hull breach alarm. Something was cutting through the outer armor of the command deck. The distinctive whine of a molecular cutter grew louder until a perfect circle fell inward from the hull, clanging against the deck plates. Through the opening stepped 3 figures in sleek combat suits. Their helmets concealed their faces, but their bipedal forms marked them unmistakably as humans. They carried weapons unlike anything in the Vex arsenal. Slim, elegant devices that hummed with contained energy. The central figure removed her helmet, revealing Admiral Chen's stern face. "Commander Grath," she said, not a question but an acknowledgement. "Your ship is secure. Your crew is being evacuated to internment facilities. You will come with me." Grath straightened to his full height, towering over the human. "I am a commanding officer of the Vex Imperium. I demand treatment according to the same conventions you extended to the Palaxians, or the Drav, or any of the other species you cleansed." Chen interrupted, her voice sharp. "Nevertheless, you will receive better treatment than your victims did. Earth honors its commitments, even to those who don't deserve it." She gestured with her weapon. "Now come. There's something you need to see." With no choice, Grath followed Chen through the cut opening and into a sleek transport vessel. The interior was minimalist but clearly advanced. Control surfaces responded to gesture and thought, and the craft moved with a smoothness that suggested gravity manipulation far beyond what the Vex had achieved. The journey was brief. Through the viewport, Grath watched as they approached what appeared to be a massive space station, one that had been entirely invisible to Vex sensors until now. Its design was unlike anything he had seen before, with curves and angles that seemed to bend space itself around its structure. Inside the station, Chen led Grath through corridors filled with beings from a dozen different species. Some he recognized as races the Imperium had supposedly conquered or eliminated. They worked alongside humans as equals, not slaves or subjects. Finally, they entered a vast chamber with a circular platform at its center. As they stepped onto it, the space around them transformed into a holographic representation of the galaxy. "The Stellar Commons," Chen explained, gesturing to the hologram. "An alliance of 97 species across 3 galactic arms. For centuries, we've watched the Vex Imperium expand, cataloging your atrocities while preparing our response." Grath's 4 eyes widened. Impossible. Our intelligence networks would have detected. Your networks detected exactly what we wanted them to, came a new voice. A tall, slender being with iridescent skin approached. A Palaxian. From a world Grath himself had ordered cleansed 15 cycles ago. Ambassador Trelna, Chen acknowledged with respect. Commander Grath believes we couldn't have hidden an alliance of this size. The Palaxian's multifaceted eyes regarded Grath with cold calculation. When your forces attacked my homeworld, you believed you'd eliminated our species. In reality, we had already evacuated 80% of our population to hidden settlements throughout the sector. Humanity provided the sanctuary and technology to mask our presence. The same story repeated across 17 worlds, Chen added. While you saw destruction and submission, we orchestrated evacuation and resistance. Earth has been the hidden heart of the resistance against the Vex Imperium for decades. Grath's mandibles clicked in disbelief. Why reveal yourselves now? Why not continue to build your strength in secret? Chen's expression hardened. Because your next targets included worlds with billions of innocent lives, worlds that couldn't be evacuated in time. We determined that the cost of continued secrecy had become too high. The hologram shifted to show the current state of the battle around Earth. Vex vessels were being systematically disabled and captured. Even those that had attempted emergency jumps had been intercepted by waiting Commons forces. Your invasion force has been neutralized, Chen stated flatly. Even now, Commons fleets are moving against key Vex military installations throughout the sector. The quantum communication network you rely on has been compromised for years. We know your deployment patterns, your command codes, your strategic weaknesses. The Imperium will send more ships, Grath warned, though his voice lacked conviction. Our full military might is already being engaged on multiple fronts, finished Ambassador Trelna. This wasn't just about defending Earth, Commander. This was the signal to launch our coordinated offensive against the Imperium itself. The hologram expanded to show conflicts erupting across Vex space, rebellions on occupied worlds, precision strikes against military bases, and the systematic dismantling of command and control nodes. It was a masterfully orchestrated campaign that must have been planned for decades. How? Grath whispered, his composure finally breaking. How did humans, primitives who only achieved spaceflight 2 centuries ago, orchestrate all of this? Chen stepped closer, her eyes reflecting the holographic battles surrounding them. Because that narrative, that timeline, was a fiction we created specifically for species like yours. Humanity reached the stars nearly 5 centuries ago, Commander, but our first encounters taught us caution. We discovered the remains of civilizations destroyed for developing too quickly, for appearing threatening to established powers, she continued. So we made a choice to appear less advanced than we were, to move slowly and carefully while building alliances in secret. A species that hid its light, Grath murmured, recalling an old Vex proverb about predators that disguise their strength. Precisely, Chen confirmed. We maintain 2 separate technological tracks, the public one that your spies observed, and the real one that produced the ships and weapons now dismantling your fleet. Ambassador Trelna gestured, and the hologram shifted to show a transmission being broadcast throughout the sector. Humans standing alongside representatives of supposedly conquered species, announcing the formation of the Stellar Commons and the beginning of a campaign to liberate Vex-controlled space. You're being returned to the Imperium, Chen told Grath. Not as our prisoner, but as our messenger. You will deliver our terms for the Imperium's surrender and reorganization. They'll execute me for failure, Grath stated flatly. Perhaps, Chen acknowledged. But before they do, they'll hear what you have to say. They'll see the evidence you carry. And they'll understand that the choice now facing them is the same one you offered Earth. Submit or face the consequences. Hours later, as Grath was escorted to a small diplomatic vessel that would return him to Vex space, he paused at the airlock and turned to Admiral Chen. Our intelligence suggested humans were fractious, divided, incapable of the unity required for this level of deception and coordination, he said. What changed you? Chen's expression softened slightly, showing the first hint of something other than stern resolve. We were divided, Commander. For most of our history, we fought one another over resources, ideology, territory. But the discovery of your Imperium and its methods united us as nothing else could. The prospect of extinction is a powerful motivator for cooperation. She handed him a small data crystal, our final message to the Imperium. The same 7 words we sent before your attack, but perhaps now they'll understand their true meaning. As the airlock closed between them, Graff looked down at the crystal in his hand. Though he couldn't activate it without proper equipment, he knew exactly what message it contained. You have sealed your fate. Goodbye. The diplomatic vessel detached from the station, its course set for the nearest Vex outpost. Through the viewport, Graff watched Earth recede, a small blue planet that had hidden its strength behind a mask of weakness, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal its true power. In the cycles that followed, the legend of humanity's deception spread throughout the galaxy. Species on the verge of conquest by other expansionist empires adopted Earth's strategy, appearing weaker than they were, building alliances in secret, preparing for the moment when revealing their true strength would have maximum impact. The Age of Deception, historians would later call it, an era when the lesson learned from one small blue planet changed the nature of interstellar politics forever. Sometimes, the most dangerous predator is the one that appears to be prey.